What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and it's been a little bit since I've hopped on the mic, and we're going to talk all about that. But first, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been with me through this, because I started the Powerhouse Mentality back in 2022, just because I wanted to have a place where I can talk about my experiences, where I can talk about the lessons that I was learning in life, and it turned into something a little bit bigger than I ever thought possible. And I wanted to continue making it into something bigger. So if you're listening to this and you get value from these episodes, please do me a favor and do yourself a favor, because you're going to make an impact by doing it. Go and share the podcast with at least one person, or if you don't have anybody that you want to share it with, go share it on your social media, because that way we can spread the mission and we can help make America mentally tough again. Now, on today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to dive a little bit into where my head's been at over the last couple of weeks. And if you follow me on social media, then you know last week I had something happen to me where I ended up in the hospital twice in 2 days, which I don't ever like to go to the hospital. So let alone being there twice in 2 days sounds like the most miserable thing ever. And it kind of was. But before we get into that, I want to set the stage. So it is now Thursday, July 24th when I'm recording this. And I'm going to take you all the way back to Monday, July 14th, where our story begins. Actually, I'm going to take you back a little bit further to January of 2025. I did a podcast on this, telling the story about it, but I landed myself in the ER from having extreme abdominal pain, cramping in my entire torso, pain that was what I thought the worst pain of my life. But don't worry, we beat that this week. I always like to level up. And when I was in the hospital for that pain, we ended up determining that it was rhabdo in my core, which is extreme muscle breakdown. 10 out of 10 do not recommend having rhabdo in your core. It is very uncomfortable. But sometimes it happens. That's just part of being an athlete. You have to kind of accept that sometimes shit like that's going to happen, regardless of what you do. When I was in the hospital for that, they did a CT scan to make sure that my organs were good. And they found that my organs were good, except for one little thing. And at that time, it was technically a little thing. It was an ovarian cyst on my left ovary. At the time, I believe it was like a 4x4 or 4x5 centimeter. So it wasn't small, but it wasn't crazy large. So they told me not to worry about it, that it would probably go away on its own like most cysts do. They'll probably just dissolve away. But that I should have a follow-up probably in 2 to 3 months, just to make sure that things are going in the right direction and that it's not getting worse or there are no complications. And I don't like the doctor, so I took that as, oh, it's simple and it'll dissolve on its own, so I won't do anything about it. And that's exactly what I did. Absolutely nothing. So fast forward to Monday, July 14th. I've been working with a nutrition coach. Her name is Cheryl Nasso, and I'm going to have Cheryl on the podcast one of these days. We've actually been going back and forth with trying to get on the podcast, but life keeps just lifing us. And for some reason, we'll lock in a day and then something crazy will happen where one of us can't do it. But one day I'm going to have her on the podcast. She's been an incredible, incredible impact on my life over the last 6 months that we've worked together. But we have been focusing on increasing my calories, increasing my fueling, specifically with carbs and fats, to help my body recover and to help my performance in training, to help with my aesthetics, to help with muscle and strength growth, all of those things. And throughout this journey over the last 6 months, it's made me realize that I really am not fully recovered from my eating disorder in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I would say over the last 3 years that we've been in Florida, my eating disorder has probably been the worst that it's been since I was starving myself. Now, I haven't starved myself, but I've become very orthorexic. And for those of you who don't know what I'm not taking that out because, geez, that's a hard word. For those of you who don't know what orthorexia is, orthorexia is basically the obsession with clean eating, we'll say. The obsession with being healthy, where it's detrimental at some point. So things that I struggle with is eating anything that is not a whole food, eating anything that comes out of a box, eating anything that I have not prepared myself, going out to eat, taking a bite of somebody else's food, all of those things. So the most embarrassing thing to admit would be that a few months ago, and I haven't shared this with anyone, but I shared this on the podcast. I want you to understand the struggle, that it's never perfect. We tried to go out to a barbecue restaurant because me and my husband haven't been out to eat in a very long time because of the struggle that I'm having here. When we lived in North Carolina, I didn't have as much of a problem with it, but I think moving to Florida, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress that went along with it. Stone hasn't been home a lot since we've moved here. Plus, when we first moved here, it was the wedding, and there's just been a lot more stress in Florida. Running a business now, there's a lot more going on. And my first thing when I'm stressed is I start to kind of lean into that eating disorder a little bit. And while I haven't been restricting, I haven't been able to eat out. So we tried to eat out. I had a panic attack. Didn't really work out the way that I wanted it to, but it was a learning experience. And it was kind of like my wake-up call to like, okay, we're going to fix this. We're going to get better. And Cheryl has been really helping me with those things. So with increasing my fueling, on Monday, we do our check-in. So she sent me my check-in and told me, hey, this week, this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to add 10 grams of peanut butter, almond butter, any sort of butter to your oatmeal pre-workout. That way we get a little bit more fats, a little bit more calories, and it'll probably help your blood sugar to stabilize throughout the entire workout so you don't feel like you're falling off. I was like, cool, I got this. But Monday came and I said, okay, well, I already had my oats on Monday by the time I saw this, so this was valid. I said, okay, I'm going to start it tomorrow. Tuesday came along, and I said, I'm going to start it tomorrow. Wednesday came along, I'll start it on Friday because Thursday is a recovery day. Unfortunately, I didn't get to train on Friday, so I didn't get the opportunity to put the nut butter in my oats. Frankly, I barely ate on Friday because I couldn't eat. I couldn't barely walk, and I couldn't use the restroom. All the fun things. But if you told me that on Wednesday, I would have told you were crazy. There's no way. That's not going to happen. That's crazy. No way. And that's where the lesson begins. Life can change so quickly, and we don't know when it's going to change. The only guarantee that we have in life is that one day life is going to end. For all of us. One day we will all die. That might sound morbid, but it's true. And you can't escape that reality. But for some of us, for a lot of us, I would say for the majority of us, we look at time as if it's an unlimited thing that we have. Like we're always going to have more time. So I'll do that thing tomorrow. I'll put it off another day. I'll do it next week, next time. I'll call her tomorrow. I'll call that person next week. We put these things off because we think we have more time when in all reality, we might not. So Wednesday, I went to sleep, and this might sound a little bit weird, but late in the evening on Wednesday, I was sitting on the couch, and I was doing some work on my laptop, and I got the sudden urge to, like, have a really big sneeze. Like, one of those, like, oh shit, this is gonna hurt kind of sneezes. And I compressed a little bit, and I sneezed, and I felt this weird pressure in my abdomen, in my pelvis, in my tailbone. I was like, ooh, that didn't feel good. Initially, I said out loud, because Stone was sitting on the couch, I said, I think I just hurt my back sneezing. Like, I thought, oh no, did I, like, bulge a disc or something? Because it just felt like a weird pressure. And for the rest of the night, I just felt weird. It just, like, never went away. Then I woke up Thursday morning with this terrible, almost like side stitch kind of pain in my side, up my rib cage a little bit, into my hip, into my like bladder, around my pelvis area. I was like, oh man, I must have sprained a muscle or something yesterday. Like I was thinking back in my head, like, okay, I've done a lot of like very core heavy stuff. I did a lot of like heavy barbell cycling and heavy deadlifts yesterday. So maybe I just popped a rib or just tweaked something a little bit that I didn't feel in the moment because of the adrenaline, and now I'm kind of feeling it after the night of sleeping. And I was just like rolling around. I was like, oh man, this is really bad. And I remember asking Stone, because he was going to work and I still had like another 30 minutes before I needed to get up. So I was just like laying there. I was like, hey, can you grab my heating pad? And I just sat there for like 45 minutes with the heating pad and it wasn't helping. So I was like, okay, let me get up. Let me go into the garage. It's a recovery day, so I'm just going to go for a walk this morning anyway. So luckily I didn't have to train that day. But I was like, let me go and do like some mobility and foam rolling and try to like work this out. I kid you not. I sat in that garage on the floor for like 45 minutes, going between foam rolling and then just sitting there and being like, what the fuck is happening to me? And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to do this walk. The walk will probably make me feel better, get some blood flowing, get some fresh air. I'll be good. And I started walking and it started getting worse. And I was like, oh, wow, it hurts a lot when I'm walking. And I would like stop walking and it would feel slightly better. And then I would keep walking, it'd feel worse again. So like, okay, it must be a muscle because when I move, it hurts more. And it got to the point where throughout this, it was like a 45-minute walk is what I planned to do. Throughout this walk, I got to the point where I was taking like 10 steps and then stopping and bending over because I was in so much pain. And I remember texting Stone. Where was he that day? He was at work. So he was at work. I was texting him and I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it home. Like I'm about to literally sit my ass on the curb and just wait for you to get off of work later and just be here or just let this pass. Because I've had cramps before. Like if I do a lot of GHDs, for example, in training, the next day, almost guaranteed I'm going to wake up and have like cramps in my core, which probably means I need to hydrate more, but that's another problem. But I was like, usually those cramps, they pass within like 20 minutes, not even 15 minutes. But for some reason, this wasn't passing and I was getting quite concerned at this point. So I was like, okay, I'll eat something. I'll feel better. So I had my breakfast, sat down at my desk, got my energy drink, and I literally did absolutely nothing but sit there and stare at my computer and put on YouTube videos to distract myself because I physically felt like I couldn't do anything. And mentally, I had no focus because my whole focus was like, this pain is so bad and why is it getting worse? Eventually, I got up, started doing my thing, and I was like, okay, let me go into the garage, do more mobility, and try to see what's going on. And it was so bad that I didn't even get any mobility done. I just literally sat on the garage floor with my legs up on the box. And I was texting Stone the whole time. And I was like, when are you going to be home? I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to the ER. I need to see what's going on because this pain is getting worse. So if the pain was getting better or remaining the same, I wouldn't have been as concerned. But I was really worried because it kept getting worse and worse, regardless of what I did. It wasn't like, oh, if I move a certain way, it kind of hurts more. It was just like, it hurts all the time. And it comes in really bad waves. Like, it'll hurt a lot, and then it'll hurt like really, really bad. And so he was like, okay, I'm on my way home. We're going to go to the ER. This was like at 4 p.m., I think. We got to the ER at a hospital that's like 30 minutes from us because I don't really like the area that we live that much. And we never really looked into hospitals in the area that we live. So we always go to like this one that's like 30 minutes away. And man, this hospital that's 30 minutes away really sucks. And I don't know why we keep going back there. So we went there and we sat there for 2 hours. And at the 2-hour mark, I said, we're leaving. It's probably a muscle. I'll be fine. I was not fine. I was definitely slowly dying in that waiting room, but I couldn't wait any longer. Like we hadn't even been called. There weren't even there were like 3 other people. It was crazy. I was like, we're going to be here all night. And I don't want to, my mindset, because I'm one of those people who I never want to be a burden on anyone, something that I'm working on. But I didn't want to be a burden to Stone. I didn't want to have to keep him there because I know he had a long day at work. I know he's probably hungry. I was starving. So I was like, let's go home. I'll be fine. So we got home, had dinner, laying on the couch, still in a lot of pain, but trying to just like not focus on it and hoping that it was getting better. And then I stood up to go and make my Ninja Creamy, which is what I have every single night before I go to bed. And I remember just being hit with this horrible stabbing pain where I could barely stand up straight. I was like, wow, this is getting even worse. And I didn't think at that point it actually could get worse. I thought this was like the worst it was going to get. But don't worry, it gets worse. So I had the Ninja Creamy, and I didn't even try to go into the bed. I was like, I'm sleeping on the couch. We're sleeping on the couch tonight. I made this decision because I needed the heating pad, and I just didn't want to get up. And I was tossing and turning and tossing and turning and flipping and wincing in pain and crying in pain. And at about 4 a.m, I'm like crying in pain. I cannot move. I can't even sit up. Nothing is working. It literally feels like this knife that's been in me all day is now all in my hip pelvis area. It's not in my rib cage anymore. It's all centralized in that area. And I was like, did I tear my hip flexor? Because it literally just was like a burning, stabbing, unbearable pain. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10, by far the worst pain I've ever been in my entire life. And Stone says, do we need to go to the hospital? And I said, is there a hospital that's near us? Because I'm not driving 30 minutes to that shitty hospital to sit in the waiting room for 3 hours. And we found that there was a hospital literally like 5 minutes from us. So I was like, okay, let's go. And we get there. I'm barely able to stand. I can't even stand up straight at this point, honestly. I'm barely able to walk. And they get us in so fast. Like, we weren't even finished checking in. And they were like, oh, he's there to take you back. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. And the whole time in triage, checking in, getting your vitals and stuff, he was so convinced. He was like, oh, girl, you have a kidney stone. Like, you have a stone. Like, the nurse, same thing, was like, sounds like you have a kidney stone. The doctor, sounds like you have a kidney stone. Everybody was like, you have a kidney stone. So I was like, okay, I have a kidney stone. Cool. That was almost relieving because I knew that, yeah, it's going to be really fucking painful. And I was already like in the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. I couldn't even see it getting any worse at this point. I was like hoping that I would pass out from the pain. That's where I was at. And I didn't, but I really wish that I would have, because that would have been so much more pleasant, I feel like. But I've never had a kidney stone. And I know that like they will eventually pass. So in my head, I was like, okay, this is temporary. I'm okay. It's a kidney stone. We're good. So they gave me pain medication. They gave me anti-nausea medication. And the pain medication did literally nothing. Like, maybe it took the edge off slightly. And the nurse came back in and was like, how are you feeling? And I said, it's okay. Completely lying. And I think he could see that. So he came back in with morphine, and I've never had a narcotic before. The reason why I've never had a narcotic before is because my father, when I was in high school, became addicted to Oxycontin, which is a horrible narcotic. And there's so much shit behind Oxycontin, so much just people thinking with their wallets, right? Not thinking about people. There are 2 incredible series on Oxycontin and on the opioid crisis. One is called Dope Sick. It's on Hulu. Highly recommend watching it. The other one is called Painkillers. It's on Netflix. Both of them are phenomenal and come at it at different angles. And I told myself I would never, ever take a narcotic because I never want to lose myself and lose my family. I have a very addictive personality. And I know that if something takes away the pain and makes me feel good, I'm going to want more of it. So I never wanted to put myself in that situation. I was so desperate when he said, I'm going to give you morphine. And he explained to me, you're going to feel a little bit weird. It's okay. You'll be okay. It's fine. He was great. Talked me through it. But I started having like trauma, like that I've repressed for so long. And in any other situation, I would have declined the morphine. However, I was so desperate that I said, okay, like, it's going to be okay. He said it's going to be okay. This is all I'm going to have. I'm not going to have more. They're not going to send me home with more. This is it. This is fine. So I had it. I can see how people get addicted to something like that. It's very euphoric, and it literally took all of the pain away for the most part. I was still very uncomfortable, but so like it went from a 10 out of 10 pain to like a 4 or a 5. So I was like so much better, and I was able to like relax a little bit because I was in like full panic mode because my body was like on fire, it felt like. And at that point they took me back for the CT scan to confirm if it was a kidney stone. And then about 10 minutes later, my time might be off on all of this, but that's irrelevant. She comes in, the doctor, and she says, "Good news, it's not a kidney stone." And in that moment when she said that, I was like, that is not good news, because now I don't know what's wrong with me. She said, "It's not a kidney stone, it's not colitis, but you do have a pretty big ovarian cyst. It's about the size of a baseball inside your left ovary." I was like, oh no. I literally said to her, "Oh shit, that's still there?" And she was like, "Oh, you knew about this?" Yes, I did. And I did nothing about it. And now it's bigger and causing the worst pain I've ever had in my life. But again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, everything happens for a reason. And I'm learning my lessons. If something is wrong with you, do not put it off, because it could come back and bite you in the ass like it did me. So I looked at her and I said, "Okay, well, what do we do?" And she said, "Nothing. We do nothing. We'll send you home with prescription painkillers and you'll be okay. You go and get a gynecologist appointment so that you can check back in on it." And that was the most disappointed I've ever been leaving a hospital. Usually when you leave a hospital, you have some answers and you feel pretty good about it. But even if it's a shitty answer, at least you have something. And while I did have answers, I was terrified that pain was going to come back once morphine wore off. And I was terrified of taking more pain medicine. So I was in a real pickle. But I got home. Stone tucked me in. I finally got some sleep. He went right to work, so bless him. He's the real MVP of the story. And I was kind of like in and out of sleep until I got up finally at like 4 p.m. I was like, I should probably drink water. I should probably eat something. I didn't want to eat anything. And the only thing that sounded good to me was like an apple, a banana, and a protein bar. So that's exactly what I had. I was like, it's better than nothing. And I still had that discomfort. It was nowhere near as painful, but it was still very present. So I was still very terrified. And Stone went to get my prescriptions, and I was very scared to take the prescriptions. I don't like to take medicine. I don't like not knowing how something's going to impact my body. That's why I don't drink. That's why I never done drugs. That's why I don't smoke. That's why I don't do anything like that, because I don't like not having control of my body. And so I took some of the pain medicine. They're not narcotics. They're just hydrocodone, which I guess is technically Vicodin, which technically I guess can be a narcotic. That one didn't do anything, so I didn't even take it again. But I took some anti-inflammatory that they got me. That was pretty helpful for the first couple days. But the pain started to slowly kind of stabilize, so it was bearable. It wasn't the same. I got a little bit of sleep on Saturday night, on Friday night. Friday night, I tried to eat dinner. I really couldn't finish it. I couldn't even finish my Ninja Creamy, which is when you know something is really wrong. And Saturday night, I woke up and the pain still was really bad. Like, I couldn't even stand up straight. I was so bloated. I was in so much pain. I hadn't used the bathroom in 3 days. I haven't used number 2 in 3 days. I've urinated a couple times. But all of that was just so painful. And I could barely walk. I could barely eat. I could barely use the restroom. And I said, we have to go back to the hospital. I need to see if they can get this out of me, because something is not right. So we went back to the hospital, same incredible experience, in and out so quickly. They did an ultrasound to make sure that the cyst wasn't infected, and the cyst was smaller. Interesting. Which is why it's so important for you to look at your lab results and look at your test results, because they didn't really catch that, because it was 2 different groups of people. I guess they really didn't pay attention. They were just like, the cyst is fine. You are okay. It's not infected, so we don't need to do anything about it. But when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's smaller. So after that, the pain kind of started to stabilize even more. And then it turned into just more of like the discomfort from not using the bathroom in so long and being so bloated from the inflammation and fluid, and feeling like I'd just done the most intense core workout of my life. I was so sore. It felt like I've got punched in the stomach. It felt like I did 1,000 GHD sit-ups. It was some of the worst soreness I've had. And I was like, this is weird. Like, there's no way that this just happened randomly. So here's my hypothesis that I am forming based on a week of thinking about this. The sneeze caused the cyst to burst or to create a small leak. And that leak continued to get worse, and ruptured. And then I felt soreness from the rupture, which is very common. You feel very sore after something like that. So all of this, the story, not to be like, oh, Caitlin, I feel so sorry for you. I don't feel sorry for me. Two things. One, I did this to myself in a sense. I didn't get it checked out. I should have. But I'm not blaming myself for it at all, because then that's a negative thought that I don't need. The second thing is I'm taking so much from this experience. And honestly, as horrifying and as scary and as painful as this experience was, I'm really happy that it happened. And that might sound weird. But I've been through enough shit in my life to know that all of the bad shit happened so that you can become the strongest, most resilient version of yourself. It happens for a purpose. But a lot of people don't see that. They see that as just something bad that happened. Poor me. I wish it didn't happen to me. But coming off of this, I've done a lot of thinking into we really don't know when the clock runs out. Life can change in an instant, and we waste so much time saying, I'll do it tomorrow. Like me with the nut butter. I'll do it tomorrow. And guess what? On fucking Wednesday, when I got back into fully training, double days, I had that fucking nut butter. Because I'll do it tomorrow doesn't cut it anymore. Because the truth is, you might not get that tomorrow. Whether it's fueling your body properly, having a hard conversation, or committing to the next level version of yourself. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do it now. You never know what you're going to get. I went from being pumped about the weight that I was cycling in my workout last Wednesday to being unable to walk Friday morning. 36 hours. That's all. 36 hours. And my whole life changed. And I was so terrified that was what it was going to be now. So the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this podcast is I want you to think about what you've been putting off. What is the one thing that you keep saying to yourself, I'll do it tomorrow because I have time? Do it today. Because my commitment that I'm making to myself moving forward after this experience is that I will not waste any more time. Every single day, I will treat it as though today is my last shot to get everything that I want done in my life. Today is my last shot to be on the journey to becoming a competitive CrossFit athlete. Today is my last shot to help my clients become their best. Today is my last shot to be the wife that my husband deserves. Today is my last shot to say I love you to the people that I care about. And that's how I want you to live your life. Live it like today is your last shot, because you don't know when that's going to be true. So go out and do one thing today that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.